A top Pentagon official who served under former President Trump tells CBS News the Chinese spy balloon may be a tipping point in U.S. China relations. Former Acting Secretary of Defense Chris Miller said the incident revealed U.S. capabilities and limitations.
What do the last 2 weeks tell us about the military's detection capabilities?
We spend $1 trillion on defense each year, and we should be able to handle something so unsophisticated as a doggone Chinese spy balloon.
Did we need to use fighter jets to bring down the Chinese spy balloon and these 3 unidentified objects?
If you do the math, that's probably $400 or $500 million worth of hardware in the air, shooting $400,000 Sidewinder missiles at them. The cost curve is in the Chinese favor. I would hope that with all the money we spend in defense, that we would have had a capability to bring that thing down in a more controlled manner, so we could exploit the doggone equipment and whatnot on it.
Well, the White House has said that as they followed the trajectory of the Chinese spy balloon, they were able to shore up security around these sensitive military installations. Do you think that we were able to button that up?
You would hope, but at the end of the day, we emanate so many electronic signatures, cell phones, and other things come off a military installation that I think that's probably a little hyperbolic, and it seems to me a bit covering your you-know-what is what's happening right now.
As Acting Secretary of Defense, would you have made the recommendation to shoot down the Chinese spy balloon before it reached the continental U.S.?
Looking at the map and seeing the track of the balloon across the Aleutian Islands, and then there's this huge blue space where it seems likely you could have taken that thing down there, I would have absolutely recommended that we attack the balloon before it could go fly all the way across the United States.
President Biden told the American public that the shoot down of the Chinese spy balloon after it traversed the continental U.S. sent a clear message to the Chinese government that this is unacceptable. What message do you think was sent?
When you're dealing with totalitarian and authoritarian governments, I think that message probably is lost. Immediate action to take down that balloon when we saw it would have sent a much stronger message, you know, kind of Reagan's peace through strength. I don't think we really did it in this case.
As Acting Secretary of Defense under President Trump, were you briefed about the Chinese balloon surveillance program?
Never. Wish I would have been, if it even existed at the time. It seems that's one of the issues right now, is transparency and accountability that, you know, I talk about in my book.
How can it be that you would not be briefed on a surveillance program by China? Because there's reporting now that there was intelligence about the program.
That's kind of fundamentally the issue I have right now with our Department of Defense and our intelligence community, that there's so many stovepipes in the intelligence community. And since they couldn't determine definitively that it was the Chinese, they decided that it would be inappropriate to let senior decision makers know. I think that's what we're going to find out finally when an investigation is completed, probably in 12 to 18 months.
How does that happen, though? You're the top Defense Department official, and you're not being briefed on what may be a surveillance program by an adversary.
That's you just hit the nail on the head. That's the issue we need to address. And, you know, I talk about in my book about civilian oversight of the military, where we have career people, great Americans working hard, but we also have people that burrow into the professional bureaucracy and think that they know more than the senior decision makers.
President Biden said the U.S. wants to have open lines of communication with the Chinese. His words were competition, not conflict. Is that possible?
I think that we're at a tipping point right now, and that's something that has to be resolved. You saw Secretary Austin's call to his counterpart in China was ignored. That's a pretty strong signal to me that we're in a bad place. I suspect that a lot of this is the result of our pullout in Afghanistan, where the Chinese, I think if we open the files, you know, in 50 years in the Chinese Communist Party, we're going to find out that they saw weakness there and now see us as kind of a spent force and are not respectful of the power that we still have.